Welcome to a Cyclone InCYders Volleyball Special Edition. Matt Van Winkle and Andrew Schneider here. Andrew, we have got a big show. The reason we decided to do this special edition show is because we've got so much to talk about with this big win against Texas last week and the Iowa State volleyball team heading to the NCAA Tournament, hosting for the second straight year. We're going to be talking about quite a bit of stuff coming up. Obviously, it was senior night for the Iowa State Cyclones against Texas, a big win against the number 3 team, number 18 Iowa State. A little bit of revenge in that game. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. Obviously, senior night, we're going to do a little bit of a season recap. Obviously, this season, Andrew, kind of a tale of two stories here. Iowa State, obviously, in the first half of the season, struggling. Obviously, in the second half of the year, on a huge run, 10 straight wins. So, Andrew, we've got a lot to talk about. Let's get right into things with this big Texas win, Andrew, though. Iowa State, obviously, like I said, looking for a little bit of revenge in that game. They went down to Austin, Texas, lost in 5 sets. It was a similar case, again, on Saturday.
And really, Iowa State is the team that has been the thorn in Texas's side all season long. Went down earlier this season in Austin, won the first 2 sets in 2 really close matches, and Texas turned it on and played Texas-style volleyball. Iowa State unable to block them. And we kind of saw that in the 4th set in this one as well. Mm-hmm. But first set, you lose it. It was a close one for Iowa State, 25-23. Yeah. And you thought to yourself, well, Iowa State really needed to take that first one. But then they come out in the second set, play some of their best volleyball all season long. Do so in that second and third set. 4th set, once again, Texas turns it on, they got that very tall and athletic front line, who was just attack after attack. And then that last set was just, we were both on the court for that one, and really just the energy in Hilton Coliseum. More than 4,400 attend. Yeah. The 4th largest ever in Iowa State history. The crowd was into it. Iowa State gets it to 13-13. They actually took the lead going into the break there in the 5th set, and then win it 15-13 on some great defensive plays by Kristen Hahn.
Yeah, and obviously senior night as well. So obviously 4 Iowa State seniors that are going to be, it's going to be tough for them to lose them. And they all had great performances too. I think that's kind of the catalyst of this team, is that senior class, because as we said, they had that tough stretch, halfway through the season. Really, that Texas match down in Austin was a huge turning point for this team, because after that match, they only lost, I think, 1 set, with aside from the Texas match, obviously losing those 2, but really just a big turning point for that team. And Iowa State out-hitting Texas in that game, but by .001. But Coach was saying after the game that she doesn't think Iowa State has ever out-hit Texas in the history of the 2 teams playing each other. So just a big feat for this Iowa State team to playing offense like they are right now, as opposed to how they were playing at the beginning of the season. Just really great stuff. Obviously, Andy Malloy, a big reason why Iowa State has had success recently. It was Big B to start the year, and now it's Malloy. So obviously, big stuff from the freshmen too.
You're right, and we go through these numbers, and you were talking about the seniors, and they were they were the reason probably why this team ended up winning. Allison, huge night, ties a career high in assists. 66, Jamie Straube, the best offensive player of the night, outside of maybe Malloy, hitting 406, 16 kills. Malloy had 19, and you go up and down the numbers here, and really across the board, Bigby had a huge night as well, and she really woke up these past couple matches here. Great to have that lefty, and Texas was really unable to block her those first, that set 2, set 3. They finally got her in that 4th set, but 12 kills in there as well. 20 digs from Andy Malloy, who once again has become this great all-around player, and we'll talk about that in the season recap coming up here shortly. And then Kristen Hahn, once again, you can't say enough about her back row performance. 30 digs again, just some terrific play, had some amazing passes up there to Allison, and really a total team effort. And you look at Texas's numbers, Bailey Webster, they were unable to stop her, but the player they were able to stop for the most part, Haley Eckerman, who
still had a pretty good night, but
didn't have the night she had against them back in Austin. And this has really been the big key for Iowa State. And it's been a full team effort. And by the way, Texas didn't have a block until the 3rd set. And that was huge. Iowa State was able to hit over it, around it, and got some big kills.
Really the big difference, I think, in that match was that Iowa State played an overall, all-around good performance. Defense was there. Unbelievable ups by the defense in the back row. Hockaday stepped in there, played unbelievably well.
And she's been battling a knee injury. Which has really opened the door for Andy.
Yeah, and like you said, Andy Malloy tried to switch things up, put her in the back row. And Coach said that they like that. That's something new that they tried to throw Texas off a little bit against. And they said it worked well. And I think I would agree with them. And, heading into that 5th set, you and I were talking that we thought that if they went to a 5th set, that they'd probably lose based on how well Texas has performed this year. how they performed in Austin. But Iowa State had the home court advantage, which has been huge for them this season. Sixth largest crowd in school history last night against Texas.
And Kristen and Allison, after the match, both said that they saw the faces on Texas.
Yeah.
They were rattled. And
Absolutely.
Texas plays in front of big crowds, and those two kind of vie for in that top 10 in terms of attendance. And really, you can't overstate how much that crowd meant. And we were surprised when you were entering this. I got in early, but when you went in and there was a line of maybe 100 people,
a couple hundred
coming
people,
up to the ticket office to come and show up, was just huge. And I think the players were so happy to see that. And really, that's probably one of the reasons why, and we'll get into that in the third segment, Iowa State's hosting once again that whole match last night. And it was just really a top to bottom performance. And as you said, out hitting Texas, just huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said earlier, it was senior night for the Iowa State Cyclones, losing 4 seniors. We're going to hear from those 4 seniors coming up in this break and kind of talk about reflecting of their careers as a Cyclone and moving forward to the NCAA Tournament. You won't want to miss it. You're watching Cyclone InCYders Volleyball Special Edition.
I mean, that's the best senior night I could have asked for. I said earlier in an interview that I wouldn't want to play anyone else but Texas. And they came and they brought it and they fought, and I thought we just responded so well, played with so much heart, and really got after it. It was loud. They were even doing the wave at some point, like stuff, at some points I was like trying to tell my hitters we really didn't know what we were running because it was so loud. So we had to really, talk louder, but it was awesome. You could feel the energy on the court. It was really cool. I came in with Taylor and Jamie, and, since the beginning, we've all, been great friends. They're awesome to have around. And just, on the court, we always know we had each other's back. Huck, especially, she played with us all 4 years as well. She came in, late with our class, but just really gelled, and I wouldn't want to, be in a class with any other girls.
Literally, you couldn't have asked for a better senior night. Playing Texas, the huge crowd, Thanksgiving break, we just have the best fans, and they brought their A game, we brought ours, and we ended up on top, so there's no better feeling than that. They mean the world, just great group of leaders, great group of athletes. This year especially with the huge freshman class, we were kind of unsure how the team would mesh, but we've had unbelievable chemistry and everyone just gets along great, and so that really shows on the court as well as off the court.
Oh, it's just been such a great 5 years. Just tonight it hit me. Well, it hasn't totally hit me yet, but just looking around, I've just feel so blessed to be a part of this program and just part of the journey that we've been through the past few years, and the successes, the ups and downs, and it's been awesome, and it's been such a blessing.
And welcome back to this special edition of Volleyball Cyclone InCYders. Andrew Schneider, Matt Van Winkle. Great reaction there from the seniors as always, and been fun to follow both of them for these past 2 seasons. Sure, now we're going to talk about the season as a whole, and really this team started out the season and it was
tough schedule,
very tough schedule, but really both of us were kind of worried, I would say, about the inconsistency, as I'd said a couple times, and really the roller coaster that was that first half of the season, but really the last half of the season, 10 wins in a row, including that match that really kick-started it all for the Cyclones in Austin, and really the turnaround since then. So let's talk about that first half of the season. Really the team struggling to find an identity. Jamie Straube unable to find consistency. Rachel Hockaday playing the front row for the first time. Losing Carly Jensen was kind of, I think, something they didn't anticipate. But we saw some freshmen really step it up there in that first half of the season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mackenzie Bigby had an unbelievable start to the season, and she was kind of the reason Iowa State was playing as well as they were. Things could have been much worse for this team. Obviously, like you said, losing a player like Carly Jensen and having Bigby come in there and kind of fill that role. But as a freshman, it's tough to come in there right away and produce. And she did just that. And another freshman, Janelle Hudson, another player that they were really looking to kind of, fill in for Han, alleviate Han from some of the defense that she was playing. And obviously she had a great year, and she had to pick up the slack just a little bit. And she did just that. And Hudson was another player there too. And obviously Annie Malloy, second half of the year, was the player that you want to look for. But yeah, Bigby was really the player that I thought was the really overall team player of the year for the first half. But really you need players like that. As like you said, the team didn't have an identity. They were still looking for that. They were playing these tournaments. They were playing ranked teams week in and week out. And that's when you don't have an identity like that, you really need players to step up. And they really didn't have like you said, Jamie Straube was struggling. They need players overall as a whole, especially the seniors, to be able to produce, and they didn't have that.
And let's go up and down the schedule real quick, and we'll bring that up for you.
Yeah.
And you look at these first couple matches. You got Florida State, who was number 12 at the time, lose in 5 sets.
Yeah.
Tennessee, number 15, lose in 5 sets. And then you go to the next weekend, swept by Illinois, and then you win in 5 sets the very next night. And then UNI, you win 3-1.
Very up and
you
down.
kind of look up, and the attendance numbers they're pretty high in Illinois, and you're playing different crowds and didn't have a home match really. You did those first 2 against Cincinnati, which you win in 3 sets, and you thought, oh, wow, this team's going to be great. And then you got that 3-match losing streak right there, and you go up and down, and you see Eastern Washington, Iowa, Syracuse. But, of course, one of the big turning points this season was that win against number 1 Nebraska at home, more than 3,000 packing Hilton Coliseum, which didn't end up eventually being the biggest crowd we thought it would be. And you win in really impressive fashion there. And then you kind of started to see the season turn a little bit. But then you lose on the road at Kansas State, swept. And then at Kansas in 5, lose the first 2 sets and then try and come back in that one. But the turning point, we think, of this season really was that match at number 8 Texas.
Yeah.
That was kind of huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk to the players, too, and you even look at that Texas Tech, a game that they won 3-1, but they lost the first set. And that's kind of the match where Coach and the players kind of regrouped and they got a new intensity. And I think that was huge because, as you said, looking forward, let's see, they lost that 1 set and they lose to Texas in 5 sets. And from there on, they won 10 straight. So you look at that, and as you said, that Texas match, huge. That Nebraska win, huge. Because you're looking at the games before that, losing to Syracuse, come back and beat the number one team in the nation. That just tells you the kind of team this is and how those big matches and how losing them took a toll on them. And you know that they were looking for some sort of motivation, something to keep them going. And the senior class was obviously huge, and that's a big reason why. And I think that, I was talking with Annie Malloy today, a freshman, and I was saying, as a freshman, it's got to be hard to go out there as a freshman and perform at the highest level. And she was just achieving really high goals and really playing well. And I said, is it part of that because the seniors just seem so at ease out there? And she said, yeah, that's a huge reason why she was able to perform like she was, because it's just like having fun out there. It's just like playing with your friends. And when it's like that, when you've got something to play for like that, playing for these seniors, it makes it a lot easier to go out there and perform and win.
Right, and let's go ahead and talk about some of our favorite players this season. And really, the second half of the season's made it so much easier for us to go through and really look at some of these numbers. And
it's hard to really pick 1 or 2 because there's so many people that had an impact.
Yeah, and I don't want to say mine's the team MVP, but I think the player that's meant the most to this team, especially during the stretch, Andy Malloy, and we've talked a lot about her so far. And we'll go ahead and bring up a graphic here of some of the numbers she had, 118 kills on the season. But really, it was that second half of the season and her playing in the back row that has changed this team. And Rachel Hockaday went down with an injury, and Andy came into this season as a setter, as a freshman, and they thought that she was going to probably be the eventual replacement. Maybe run some 6'2" out of the offense, but the replacement to Landwehr. But not only she come in and done some setting on the side when there's been some big blowouts, and you look at the schedule, there's been a lot of 3-set matches where Andy's been able to set. They put her in the front row, and she's possibly hit the ball the hardest. She's possibly got the best velocity. She's got great height. She can jump really high. And she's got some blocks in there, but she's also transitioned into a back row player. And she has learned so fast, and she fits in so well. She's so calm. She's a very calm, steady player who's come in and has taken this team by the storm and really been the go-to on offense. And outside of Han, has been the go-to player in the back row. And there's still some learning pains. There's a few points in the match against Texas that kind of come to mind when she had some maybe not so good passes to the front row. But she's been a natural. And she's come in and taken this team by storm and really has been the catalyst for this 10-match winning streak.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point with her playing the front row and the back row, which reminds me a lot of Hockaday, how they had to move her to the back row after that injury. And really, I think that's going to make her just a very dangerous player looking forward, just as a freshman right now, too, and how she was able to perform in the back, in the front. She can do a little bit of everything. And I think not playing her throughout the first half of the year, not playing her as much, I should say. She didn't have as much playing time as she is now, obviously, but I think holding her off just a little bit gave her some time to see how the team works, being able to practice with them, and kind of take a backseat and look at how where she needs to make passes and where she needs to be for these kills, because that's really important when you're playing with these experienced seniors.
And it's also worth noting that Annie Malloy did not played maybe 10 total sets of her career before coming here, and she played some national ball where she was an offensive player, and I had the chance to interview her about that. And she's just come in, and she's a natural out there on the left side, and really Big B complimenting her on the right side has made this offense go, and two big freshmen who are going to play a big role coming up here this week.
Yeah, and my overall player this season, I think, Andrew, is going to be Jamie Straube. Obviously, we said she didn't have a great start to the year, but really, you look at her numbers, and I think they get overlooked just a little bit, how much she does. And maybe she doesn't have the blocks one night, maybe she doesn't have all the kills one night, but she's really just a vocal leader out there, too, and I think that's what she's been the past few years, too. In the middle there with Tanisha Matlock. I think those two together, maybe I'll bundle those two together as my two players of the year, because you look at what they've been able to do against some of these great, powerful Big 12 teams. Really great stuff from them.
The block has improved.
The block has improved, as we noted. We said that earlier in the year that they needed to improve that, and look what happened. They just unbelievable stuff for them. Improving the block, offensive numbers huge from Jamie Straube, 58 total blocks, and you look at the kills too, 215. Obviously not leading the team, but just carrying them through and having some big matches along the way.
She got that hitting percentage back up to near 300. Defensive player, though, of course, is going to be unanimous across the board. Kristen Hahn, who won 7 defensive awards this season in the Big 12, one NCAA Defensive Player of the Week as well. Another 30-dig match against Texas, and just her digs per match and per set have been huge. 5.43 digs per set. And so you have to realize in some of those matches they were taking her out because of the 3-0 sweeps and things like that, or they were playing teams like West Virginia who didn't have an offense. Her biggest matches came against the best teams. They came in Texas when Texas came here, against Nebraska. And against some of the best, including Oklahoma, which was really sweeping Oklahoma twice this season. It was extremely impressive. And then, of course, those 2 matches against Kansas and against Kansas State as well. That's when she played her best, and she probably should be the team MVP, but we had to give her the defensive award because, of course, her defense is so great. And let's get briefly to her offense, and I'm going to say Allison Landwehr. You go ahead and move on to yours.
Yeah, I think I want to go with Victoria Hurt, because a sophomore coming in this year, leading the team in kills, Andrew. This is a player that every time I go and watch her at Hilton Coliseum just surprises me every night with how intense she is, how hard she hits the ball. Obviously, Iowa State, they're going to recruit good players, but you look at what Texas had, how athletic they were, how many hard hitters they have. Iowa State doesn't necessarily have all those hard hitters. They're a little bit more crafty in a sense, like Allison Landwehr, like you're going to mention here in a sec. But Victoria Hurt is really that go-to outside kill. The player that if you're looking for a kill, obviously she had some big ones against Texas too, especially late in that 5th set, some big kills for her. But she's going to be my offensive player of the year just because of the fact of how intense she is. You talk to her in an interview, it's funny because she's pretty quiet. She doesn't really say a whole lot, but she is so intense out on the court, and it's really showing in her numbers.
If they can get her to be more consistent, and there's a couple times where she swings off her back foot, and a couple times where she doesn't get that big swing, or she chooses to tip.
Room to improve for sure.
But when she gets the big swing, there outside of maybe Andy Malloy, who's the surprise player of this team, no one hits it harder than Victoria Hurt, who has more passion.
I want to say she's probably the most athletic player on the team too. She can really get up, and it showed yesterday. She actually had a hurt ankle too. She's been battling throughout the year. Coach says she'll be fine, though, for the NCAA tournament.
And then I was, of course, going to say Allison Landwehr, who really makes this team go. Without her, this team, I don't think, has the offense they have. And to have her set for 3 years the way she's set, she's averaging just under 12 assists per set, and she leads the Big 12 in all of those setter-related categories. She's so crafty, if you will. 66, of course, tying with Texas. But her offense and the way she's able to dump, and that part of her game has been so huge. 82 kills this season. She catches defenses off guard all the time, including Texas a couple times last night as well. She is such a weapon for this team that she can be an offensive player. She's the complete package, and frankly, Iowa State's going to probably struggle a little bit to replace her next year. But thankfully, if Iowa State can make a big, deep playoff run, which we're going to talk about in just a second, that's going to be the big key. And of course, Iowa State ends the season on a 10-win streak.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
We never thought that would happen the way they started the year. Obviously, starting the year 5-4, those struggles on the road, really not the Big 12 season even to start was rough for them too, but really turned things around.
Iowa State finishes the season 20-7, 12-1, second place in the Big 12, 12-1 at home. but they finished 13-3 in conference play. Now, coming up next, we're going to have a preview of Iowa State playoff. They take on University of Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne. Right now, we've got some reaction, though, from Christy Johnson-Lynch as well as the players and their thoughts about this postseason run.
Let's head now out west, where we're going to find the #2 national seed. That is the Stanford Cardinals. Seed in this part of the Berkeley region, Iowa State. They have Fort Wayne, Cal, and North Carolina. A lot of talent there in Ames, Iowa, but these how they do it?
No, I don't think they were picked close to it.
What's your reaction to beating Oklahoma?
Thrilled, really thrilled. You know, I felt like, you know, we had a shot, but even beating Texas, I really didn't know if that would happen. So absolutely thrilled. I think this team just did some tremendous things the last month and a half to give us even a chance to be in that position to host. So I credit the team and their perseverance and what they were able to do the last couple months of season.
Do you know anything about USC?
I don't know a lot. I know Fort Wayne's had a great season. I've seen the results and things like that. I know they've really had a terrific season. But I don't know their style or much about them. Cal and North Carolina, North Carolina's, again, had a great season. I think Cal struggled a little bit, but they did enough to get in, and they, stayed eligible, and they've won some good matches. That conference, as everyone knows, is tough. So to survive that conference and be eligible is pretty big. So, those teams are going to be, very, very physical and talented. For sure. Yeah, a few months ago we didn't know if we'd be standing here today. So, I just think, we've been playing well with confidence, just playing a whole nother level of ball last month. And this is exactly what you hope to be doing this part of the season. It doesn't happen very often. Most teams hit that point in November and you just kind of push through and finish, but not necessarily improve that month. I feel like we're still getting better, and I'm really excited about that.
Seeing what fan support was like last night, how exciting is it that you don't have to travel, you get to stay?
That's huge. Yeah, I thought the fans were tremendous last night. That's why you love to host, because that home court advantage. I think we have a better home court advantage than most. It's just a really tough place to play. We put a lot of pressure on opponents, so I'm just absolutely thrilled to be staying at home another weekend.
How much doubt?
I was giving us about a 25% chance of hosting. Even the run, our RPI was just a little bit out of that top 16, and I know they weighed that heavily. And I thought I was hoping the committee was really looking at the last month and last 10 matches, and I fully believe we were one of the top 16 teams at the end of the year. In November, I thought for sure we were one of the top 16 teams, but it doesn't really matter what I think, and I just didn't know if they would agree.
The first thing I was looking for, just to see that number by our name, it's awesome. That just means for us seniors especially, we get to play here 1-2 more times, so we're just really excited about that. Had we not beat Texas last night, I don't know if we would have been seeded, but I wouldn't think so. So that was huge, and that was something that we talked about before the match, just carrying in momentum into the NCAA tournament, and I think that we're doing that, and we're in the right place right now, I think.
It's awesome. You always hope to play at home. It's definitely a home court advantage, and we always draw a really big crowd, and so it's just a great feeling to know that we'll get to play even after conference at home. We struggled at the beginning of conference, and so just being able to finish strong and keep improving, that's huge. And so it's definitely, it builds confidence for us as a team, and just to know that we can finish strong conference.
I'm really excited. I think last night we showed the great crowd and the energy that we can get at home, and I'm excited to just play in Hilton one more time. It's awesome to be here, sleep in your own bed, have your same routine. That's going to be really nice for us. Just having our fans on our side, playing on a familiar court, gym that we're used to playing in is going to be a really good advantage for us, so I'm excited.
Were you at all surprised when it was announced that you were hosting?
You never know what the selection committee is going to do, and we had been talking about it all morning, trying to figure out, and I was like, every year I try to analyze it and figure out what they're going to do, and you just never know. So I was kind of like, well, whatever challenge we're given, we're going to take it. So we're just pleased to be here playing at home one more time, and we're ready to make the most of it.
And welcome back to a Cyclone InCYders Volleyball Special Edition. Matt Van Winkle and Andrew Schneider. And Andrew, the NCAA seedings came out, and Iowa State hosting for the second straight year at Hilton Coliseum. Obviously, those matches are going to get underway on Thursday and Friday. First round Thursday, second round Friday. Iowa State is going to be matched up with Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne in the first round out of the Summit League. 25-6, 12-4 in the conference, Andrew. We don't really know a whole lot about them, but obviously their numbers show that they're a pretty good team, and that's something that Iowa State can't look past, especially at home.
And for being the bottom seed here in the Ames bracket, the Ames region that we're in right now, they certainly have some impressive numbers.
Yeah.
And Emily Spencer is going to be the player for Iowa State to stop. She's averaging 4.3 kills per set. She's also a big blocker for the team. Haley Ripley will be the kind of defensive player to watch out for, just over a block per set. And then Tessa McGill, kind of the Kristen Hahn, if you will, of them, averaging 6 digs per set. And really one of those sneaky teams that Iowa State had trouble with a couple years ago, lost to Creighton in the first round, hosting as well. And Iowa State has a team, though. They're playing their best volleyball, and Chrissy Johnson-Lynch has said they're improving. And that's such a rare thing this late in the season to have a team that's still improving. And that all comes, of course, from those two freshmen in Bigby and Malloy constantly improving week in and week out. But Iowa State, you look at this bracket, it's pretty favorable for them to not only get back to the Sweet 16, but possibly to a Final Four.
Yeah, absolutely. Iowa State seated in the Berkeley region, so if they get past the first and second round, they'll be taking on, it looks like probably it will be Stanford or a Loyola, let's see. UCLA, absolutely. You look at the top half of that bracket, number 7 UCLA right there. And that's in California too, so that's going to be tough for Iowa State to go all the way on the road, and they've got, like we said, Stanford, UCLA, teams from California that they might have to go up against. But let's go back a little bit. If they want to get past IPFW, they're going to have to get past California and UNC. Obviously, California having a little down year this year. Look at their record overall, 15-15. So they barely just got into the tournament. But North Carolina, on the other hand, 25-5. So that's setting up to be a really good second-round match, too, if Iowa State is able to get past the first round.
Well, California coming from that incredibly tough Pac-12, and you look at some of these numbers from the Pac-12 quickly. Stanford, of course, 27-3. USC, also the number 6 overall seed. Oregon, the number 5 overall seed. And that's where all of you say the Big 12 and the Big 10 have been kind of big conferences. The Pac-12 has been super competitive, just with tough team week after week. So California is probably no snooze fest either. And really, Iowa State gets a tough bracket, but you look at the way Iowa State's played and the teams that they're playing against, certainly not top 25 teams. Iowa State, I think, will be able to kind of get through these. And once again, we look at Purdue, Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and the Mastodons, a great nickname out there. But they've got some great players up and down this lineup, and it's not going to be easy matches from this point forward, but really Stanford, UCLA, the matchup. But Iowa State, I think, gets the benefit of the doubt, avoiding the revenge matches with both Nebraska and Texas, two teams Iowa State's beaten before. And Iowa State, when they're playing their best, have shown they can play anybody in the country. Of course, the team everyone's going to be looking out for, though, is Penn State and those Nittany Lions up there in the West Lafayette region. And
obviously the story coming into this NCAA tournament was if Iowa State was going to host, and obviously they will for the second straight year. And talking with Chrissy Johnson-Lynch, she says that it probably isn't because of the fans. She thinks it's because of the way the team's been playing throughout the second half of the year. Obviously with that big win against Kansas State, big win against Texas last week. So big wins like that, I think, really helped them be able to host. Probably the fans and their RPI helped too. Obviously, playing in the Big 12,
well, the RPI was probably helped the most. Because that's the heaviest weighted top 20 team once again in the RPI. But you said it, and it's not supposed to factor in. But really, Ames and Iowa State, so many volleyball fans that show up, averaging 2,500 fans roughly again per match this season. That's going to be a big reason why. Yeah, and we'll see if the fans show up. They should, just as they did last year. Huge fan support for Iowa State. I think it really helped them too down the stretch. And that match Thursday, 7:30 against Indiana Purdue. And if the Cyclones end up winning, we'll see them Friday at 6:30 once again at Hilton Coliseum. Thanks again for tuning into this special edition of Cyclone InCYders. We'll see you again next semester.